Welcome to another episode of the Less Invasive podcast. Today we have a special guest on the show, Romain Moulin, who is the CEO of Exotec, a French company that is developing and commercializing a warehouse robotics solution. And we will talk about robotics in the warehouse and more and entrepreneurship. So, Romain, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello, Lucien.
So we've known each other when we were at GE Healthcare and working on a medical imaging system. So for the listener, could you briefly outline what has been your background and your journey in the robotics space until you get to where you are today, CEO of Exotec?
Yes, so I was in engineering school in France, and I knew I wanted to do robots. So I went to a company in Brittany, which is called BA System. They are doing automated forklift moving in the warehouse. So same kind of job as I'm doing today, but moving pallets in the warehouse. It was a very nice company, a small company, so it allowed me really to have access to all the department of company and understand really what was that company doing and discussing directly with the customers. And then, due to a project between that company and GE Healthcare, I moved to GE, working on medical devices, medical robots, like X-ray imager, like mammograph imager. So we were working on them together, Lucien. And I will get back, I think, in our interview on GE several times because it has brought a lot to us, to Renaud and myself. Renaud is a co-founder of Exotec and he was also an engineer at GE. And in 2014, at that moment, Amazon announced that they would keep the technology that they had bought, which are called the Kiva system robots, small orange robot moving shelvings. In 2014, they announced they would shut down the sales department and just keep the technology for them. And that was really the starting point of the discussion with Renault. We told ourselves what we could do for logistics, doing robots, using what we had learned at GE Healthcare.
Okay, so that's I mean that was my second question is healthcare and warehouse robotics are two different, very different industries. Healthcare is a very regulated environment when there is a very complex process to be followed. And my question is first, maybe what are you most proud of this couple of years that you worked in innovating in the medical device space?
In medical device, you had directly a feeling on the understanding on what you were providing to the end user. It was a patient, and you have to build an X-ray imager that is able to find a tumor in the patient. You have to build a mammographic imager which is able to make image of breast. So really, that's what I loved. It was having an impact really on people. And what I'm the most proud of are these two machines on which I work. The second one, which is a Selenia, Pristina, sorry, it's called now, which is a very good X-ray imager from GE. So I've been proud of working on the mechanical architecture of that imager.
Cool. And so, I mean, for me, those 3 years of at GE Healthcare were formative years where I learned a lot from different departments and especially in engineering. So, starting this new company in a different industry, what kind of lessons you have learned at GE Healthcare that help you to start and to grow this Exotech company?
Many lessons, I would say, and you can ask the employee of Exotec. They will tell you that sometimes we are boring with the G stuff. First of all, when we worked in our first company, BA System, that was a small company that was 80 people. It has grown a lot since that time. There are now at least 200 people, but I would say it was a project-oriented company. So each customer was different, and they were ready to do something different for each customer. And when we started that company, we were told, do product, don't do projects. You need to do something that works for all of your customers. Otherwise, you will die under specificities and you won't move fast. And at GE, in fact, that's what we had learned, how to build product and send these products all over the year. When you build a mammograph imager, you don't do two different mammograph imager depending if it's for the US or for Europe. So at first, you have to build the machine that will work for all customers, and then build thousands of these machines per year. So it means you are spending much more time in advance thinking how you will sell the machine, how you will deploy the machine, how you will maintain, up to how you will recycle. Whereas in my very first company, I was thinking, how can I make that machine work? So it's a completely different game. You work, I would say, 5 times more because you take everything into account, but then you go super fast. And that was probably one of the key of our success, is to try to do things first and then replicate and try to push our machine, the same machine, all over our customers. So the Skypod robots, the factory is just next to me. I can take any of this machine and send it to any of our customer site. These are really the same machine everywhere. And it might seem simple or obvious, but in fact, we are in a business, warehouse automation or warehouse robotics, where our competitors tend to do more specificities and more different stuff per customer. So this was, I think, one of the biggest stuff we've learned at GE: build product and not projects.
Cool. I mean that's very interesting, and as I'm very customer focused, I can relate to that and to that mindset. So moving on to warehouse robotics, you mentioned different customers. Could you explain maybe at a high level what is a what is warehouse robotics and what is a logistics system for preparation?
Yeah.
What is it exactly?
Yeah, so you have to see what happens or understand what happens if you place an order at Amazon, for instance, or Cdiscount. It's one of our customer. If you order one book and one pen to Cdiscount, someone will walk a huge warehouse that can be tens of thousands of square meter to find this book and this pen, put them in a box, and send it to you. When you do like this, when you do fully manual warehouses, you have operators which are walking 15 kilometers a day, and in quite difficult conditions and not very ergonomic work condition. So our system relies on a fleet of robots. The robots are the size of a luggage approximately, and we say to the operator, stay outside of the storage, and then we will have a robot that go and take the tote containing the pens, a robot that go and take the tote containing the book, and this robot will bring the tote to you, so that you stay outside of the system and you have a fleet of robots at your service which are taking the article and bringing them back to you. So if you do like that, the first thing is that your operator will work much faster because he does not have to look for the articles. And the second stuff is that you can store much more dense, because our robot, and that's a big specificity of Exotec, they can climb on the shelving and go up to the ceiling, up to 12-meter high, take totes, bring them down to the operator. So you have a high speed of picking and at the same time very high density.
Okay, thanks. So we'll come back on the technology because I'm eager to learn how they those robots can climb the stairs. But maybe before you is the today on the market is the robotics like 5% of the market? Is everything like conventional as you described with people walking the aisle and picking the stuff? How much is the warehouse robotized today?
Yeah, this is a very, very manual field, warehousing. And probably I would say 90% of the warehouse are fully manual with just operator doing kilometers and just simple shelvings. When you are picking manually, your shelvings are 2 meter high because you have to pick in the shelves. So we have a huge playground, in fact, because only 2% of them have automation, and 10% have automation, and we have 90% that maybe not all of the 90 will switch to robotics, but we will take a piece of that. What's behind this is that's because, in fact, right now, what was available to the market were more traditional automation. I told you about this specific machine, which are different for each and every customer. And these are marvel of engineering, but these are machines which are quite difficult to install. It takes more time. It will take 1 year and a half, where we can do that in 6 months, and then very difficult to modify. So that's why automation, well, warehouse are so manual, because before you go to such heavy machinery, you need to be fully sure of what you'll do in the next 10 years. And most of the warehouse people, they don't know what they'll do in the next 10 years. So that's why only a piece of it as automation, and that's why we think a big piece of it can switch to robotics, because we offer solutions which are much more flexible. So people that would not have invested into traditional automation, we know they would invest in robotics, and that's what Cdiscount, our first customer, that's what they did. They were not okay with the flexibility of the traditional system, and when we brought to them really high performance system but very flexible, that's what made them go to robotics.
Okay, so I understand the main pain points are the like labor consuming conventional way to do that, and what you bring at Exotec is mostly the speed, also the thing that it's very modular and flexible, so it can adapt to the customer needs if the needs is going to evolve in the following years. So coming back to the technology, could you explain us how how many robots are in a warehouse and how they move to where they have to go, and how they do not collide with each other, how they climb up the racks, and how they pick the items? I mean, it's just what are those technologies involved?
Okay, so how many robots? Our system really range from 10 robots for the smallest system to 500 robots for the biggest. I said it's the same product every year, everywhere. Yes, it is, but not in terms of size of fleet, number of totes. So all of this is modular, and that's what makes us also being able to push the same system, the same software, the same robot to a very small customer and to very big. And even some of our customers, they have big system and small system. That's what Carrefour has, for instance. Depending on next to what city they are, they will put small or big system. Then a mission life, it's always the same. A robot life is always the same mission. It will bring the tote it does not need anymore, take another tote, and get to a station. So to do this, the robot has a lidar and is localizing himself in the racking system, and you can tell him go anywhere, pick any tote, go to any station. So the robot software is really around localizing it himself, motion control, doing the mission very fast. It's all about performance, using high-end motion control or localization filters. Then most now of the logistic value added is in A star, which is the server, the software that knows everything and that knows what are the orders to be picked, where the totes are located with what inside the tote, and where are the robots and what they are doing. So this piece of software, A star, is doing a strong mathematical optimization to find out what should be the next order to be assembled by what operator, and what should be the robot taking what tote to get to what station. And it's a huge exponential combinatory, and so he's using mathematical and artificial intelligence optimization to find out what is the best solution to the problem. That's what makes the system, I would say, very robust to any customer. We can use that system to do I don't know, grocery e-commerce, traditional e-commerce, retail, because the system is not making us any assumption on what it does. It really try to find the best logistic solution.
Okay, so I understand that this software warehouse control system is kind of an operating system of your solution, and I guess it's fundamental for this product to work very well in a very reliable way. So maybe two questions: how do you ensure that it doesn't crash? There is no crash, and second, how many people are working in R&D on this project? I mean, is it like a big part of what you are developing right now, or you have still a lot of people working on the next generation, maybe of the mobile robot itself?
So once again, thanks to General Electric, we knew what it meant to have a critical machine. And yes, you are right. If one of our system fails, that would impact immediately our customer. If the system of Carrefour fails, then 10 minutes later, some customer does not have his order. So it's super important to have a very reliable system. hopefully for us, the system is based on a fleet of robots. So it means any failure of any robots does not have a huge impact on the system. And in fact, A star is always trying to do the job with another robot or with another tote. Or so a big piece of A star is here to handle this degraded mode, because there are always degraded mode or failures. You need to live with this failure. From outside, one robot failure does not have any impact on performance. Then, of course, you will ask me, and what if A star fails?
A star
So
doesn't fail.
that's not an answer which is valid in industry. It always fails. So A star is backup. You have two A star running in two servers, completely identical. And if you unplug one of the server, the system will boot in 5 minutes on the other server and keep on working. So working on this single point of failure is super important. I could have told it for the network, for the Wi-Fi, everywhere where you have a bottleneck, you need to double the bottleneck and to switch one of the other. Your second question is on the R&D behind. So right now, I think we are 100 in R&D. So I'm
Wow.
talking mainly on of the Skypod system, but in fact, Exotec is no more the Skypod company. We are developing other things for the warehouse. We have developed automated picking. We have new stuff coming this year. So I think maybe half of the R&D is working on the Skypod system, and the other half on new products.
Okay, cool. I mean, that sounds exciting project, and you will be able to talk a little bit about that. But first, coming back to the performance, because I understand that you provide modularity, you provide flexibility. I understand also that you are capable to set up a project very quickly. If I am a new customer, what kind of performance I am looking at for a warehouse robotic system? Is it the time to prepare an order? Is it something else?
So one big KPI or a key indicator that we looked at is the speed of your operator. Usually, if you pick fully manually, they will work at 80 picks per hour. When they work on our system, they work at 400 picks per hour, so 5 times faster. That's one KPI, but it's not everything. The other one, which is important, as you said, it's how fast I prepare my order, because I want to provide, for instance, same-day delivery. So I need system which, for an emergency order, can prepare that in 5 minutes. And this is really one big aspect of our system. That's your speed to prepare an order and to be able to deliver your customer faster. But these are the two big drivers.
Okay, and so you mentioned the robots climbing up the racks up to 12 meters. Why 12 meters? Can't you do like 24 meters? Is there I mean, a way to do better there, or is there a reason for stopping at 12 meter?
So when we sized the system, we told ourselves, let's find the limit of the system. There's no big limit, and we could go higher. But in fact, all the warehouses, they are between 11 to 13 meter. So 13 meter minus the anti-fire system and 1 meter for it to perform well when the sprinkler would be activated means 12 meter, and that's how we specified the system.
Okay, so you fit what is currently the warehouse height on
Yeah,
the market today. Great. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
so you mentioned that Skypod is not only not the only product that Exotec is providing, and you mentioned automated picking. Are you referring to the Skypicker? And could you explain what it is and how it fits? I mean, I understand it's a fixed robot that is picking stuff, and how
Yeah.
it relates to all those mobile system running around.
Yeah, so as not to lose you, I will talk about the Skypod robot and the Skypicker. So because it start to, you can have several robots in the same system. So the Skypicker act as an operator. The Skypod system has a fleet of Skypod robots taking totes in and out of the storage, bringing it usually to operators. What we have created is the Skypicker, which is a robot with a suction cup that will take the article in the tote brought by the Skypod robots and put that in an order. So the Skypicker act as an operator. The big topic on automatically picking the article is that in fact, when you do e-commerce, for instance, you face hundreds of thousands of reference of different articles, and you cannot pick all of them. You still have a proportion of it which cannot be taken by the suction cup or taken by you need to have them taken by the operators. So the big difficulty and the big value added of the Skypicker is to be fully integrated in the Skypod system. So it means, for instance, if the Skypicker takes two-thirds of the references, then you will have two-thirds of Skypicker and one-third of traditional manual operators on the station. And the system knows what's going on. He knows that what lines of order he can perform on the automated picking, what line of order needs to be performed on the manual operator. So he starts the order on the automated picker and finishes the orders on the manual operators. So that from outside, the system is still doing the same job, assembling orders as fast as possible.
Okay, so talking about jobs, in the general public, people can be afraid that robotics will destroy jobs and not create. I mean, I've been discussing with other people in the industry, in other sides of the industry, explaining that it changes the type of jobs, or it eases certain type of jobs and more change and create new jobs. What is your perspective on that? How Exotech solution impact the current jobs of people working in those warehouses?
Yeah. So it was a big topic and a big question for us with Renault when we started that company. How will we suppress a job and we will be perceived as job killers? And well, the first answer to that is that all customers that we have to who we have sold our system, they are hiring like hell because
Okay.
you are selling to companies which are fast growing, which need to find solution to grow even faster. So automation or robotics, it's only a way for them to be able to deliver what they need to deliver because they are limited in their growth. And the second big topic, and this one, not everybody might be aware of that, is that they are facing labor shortage. And at first we heard that in France, but in fact we heard the same in Japan, we heard the same in the US. And it's difficult for the logistics people to find as many operators as they need. And even when they find, they face terrible turnover, and they have people coming for just 1 week because these are difficult work conditions. So using this robotic system, you have a double impact. In fact, you can do more with a given team, but also you improve the ergonomics of the working condition because when you work on the station, it's optimized around you. You are not just making kilometers and kilometers. So with better ergonomics condition, also it tends to reduce the turnover and to have our customer. It's more easy for them to keep their staff. So it's a big topic, really. The quantity of logistics to be done, they don't have enough people to do that. So it's super important to be able to do more with a given team.
Okay, so I understand that you are filling a gap right now and not destroying any jobs, but creating more and enabling customers to do more with their current staff and addressing this labor shortage that you mentioned. And I think it's the same in I mean in radiology. In our business, we also have some kind of shortage of experienced and skilled people,
Mhm.
and I do believe that robotics, when it's enabling technology to do more or to do better, is good for everybody. So let's say I'm your new customer. I have a big warehouse. I want to automate. Could you you say it's a very fast process? Could you explain us just roughly the big steps that you go with your customer from the day you sign the contract to the day that the Skypod is running all around the warehouse?
Yeah. So the day you sign the contract, you will probably have an offer in N which tells you what is the price, what is the throughput of the system, and what is the storage, how many articles you can place in the system. So during 2 months, we will discuss together just to define in detail how the system is integrated in your factory. It's not that complex. It means just checking that there are not a pipe going through the storage or some cracks in the ground that we would not have seen. So this detailed implantation goes along at the same time with the interfacing of the IT software because our system react to the warehouse software, and you need to push to him a job to be done, and he will answer to you the job that he has done. Hopefully, as I said, we are product oriented, so it means we have the same interface with everybody. So it's mainly just on customer software to send the right message at the right moment, and we will work on that on pre-production server, so not yet the real server. Once you have signed this, we order all the parts, and it's 2 months, 2 additional months. So 4 months later, after signature, you start to go on site. We will assemble the rack, bring the tote, the box, the robots. You open the box, you pull out the robot, and it will start the mission. So it go really fast to have this system in a working condition, and you integrate in real life on the real server and the real software with the customer IT. So that is additional 2 months. So 2 months studies, 2 months supply, 2 months installation of sites, and then you go live. It can start do orders for your production.
So you said that in 6 months you have everything done and up and running, right? Wow,
Yes.
fascinating. That's speed for sure. Okay, so maybe
I
I mean,
could I could add that it goes faster than in General Electric. I love that company. We've learned many stuff, but the medical chronology is not the same as the
yeah,
warehouse chronology.
yeah, we don't have the same constraints, and I mean, corporate world is different than a startup. Maybe are you still a startup at Exotec, or do you consider
That's
you
a
as,
that's a very good question. So, in fact, I tend to say that Exotec has two sides of his brain. One brain is very startup oriented, is can take risks, can be very innovative, and wants to go fast. And that's really the brain of a startup. That's what makes startup be a really it's about life and death. So you really need to succeed, otherwise you're dead. And we tend to still have this mindset. But on the other side, we are a hardware company, we are an industrial company, we are critical for all of our customers. So we really want to have a big industrial group mindset. And we play on that, having really the rigor that we learned at GE, the processes that we learned there, everything that goes with an international industrial group, but at the same time having the speed of a startup. And we try to keep the best of both worlds.
that must be a big challenge. So yeah, I wanted to address this question around how you grew up this company that started from scratch in 2014 or 15, and now is a 2 billion euros company since you announced in January, Series C round of 335 million euros, if I'm correct. And going back to when the startup was created, what would you say were the top three challenges that you faced while you started to grow the company? Is it more around the people, the money, the technology, the market access, anything else? What retrospective? What were the big challenges?
Yeah. I think at the very beginning, it might be different nowadays, but at that moment, doing a hardware company for warehouse automation was not that famous. So finding money was a bit tougher than today, but we managed to do it. And someone gave us 360, and Bria gave us their trust at that moment. So but I tend to say hardware is less famous on the field of investing than software, mostly because scaling hardware is more difficult than scaling software. That's really the reason behind. So investors are not always used to hardware. Even reading our P&L and reading our numbers, they are not used to it because they think in software as a service or things like that. That's a topic. But it went okay. After, I think the big topic or challenge is that the company changed several times in terms of size and mindset. So at first you are 10 people or 20 people in a garage. So any decision which is taken, you know it. Anything that someone does, you know it. And then you start to grow to 100 people, and you cannot know everything. So it's also about placing the right processes in place so that people keep on working in a decent way. After, from 50 people to 150 people, it was really being able to hire, and we hired someone that is just here to hire, and because we could not hire everybody, just the two of us, and yeah, processing the hiring so that you can take the people, you can onboard them, you can train them was quite critical. And I would say now we are 300, we are 400 people. It's about the culture of the company, and you tend to see sometimes action. You say, I would not have done that, or it should have been shocking for someone in the company. So it's about culture, something GE was super strong on. They were very good
Mm.
in culture, and I think we need to spend even more time so about culture, about training. Yeah, you need to
Yeah,
process. We have been always processing everything so that it can scale.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. GE Healthcare has a very strong culture, and I think when I saw you starting this company with Renault back 5 years ago, and you had this "Welcome to the Jungle" page, you could feel that there was a strong culture behind what you wanted to create and what kind of company you wanted to design, and how you wanted the people to feel working at this company. Could you tell us basically what's the Exotech mindset? What are the core values that you live by at Exotech, or you want people to live by?
The first value we have placed on top of us is really understanding our customer, because we do B2B. We discuss with customers, they are interested in numbers. So they love robots. It's funny to have robots, but at some point, what they want is their order in the truck at the right time. So you need to talk their language. And we spend a lot of time explaining to everybody in the company what they do, what they are doing for, so that they can feel the connection between what they do every day and what is it for the end customer. That was super important, and that might be also the result from going at GE. It was such a big company that sometimes we felt disconnected from the end customer. So for us, it was really the first point. And the second point, I would say it's all about rigor. And we have a mantra at Exotec, which is almost pass is fail. So if you have done some test plan at General Electric, you know exactly what I mean. When you have developed a system, or you are doing anything, you need to test it. And a test is a set of expected results. If all of your expected results are conform, all is pass, and your test report is pass. If one of your expected result is not conform, then it's fail, and the overall test report is fail. So the joke is like, when people come to me and I ask them, is the test report pass? And they answer to me, it's almost pass. I answer them, so by definition, it's fail.
Wow,
And
that must be a bit more difficult for people.
and
But
that
I mean, I understand that is you are in an industry where you need this system to keep running, and if it fails, running back, being back running very quickly. So I understand that there is a strong needs from the customer to have this really reliable.
that's a benefit of the medical, having gone through the medical field, because on the medical field, when it fails, you could kill someone. So people knew that the quality of the product, the quality of delivery, the quality of the test was super important. uh, in our field also it is, but it's less obvious because it's more difficult to kill people. We can, so we are we are very cautious about the overall safety, but the safety is more easy than in the medical field. But the criticity, and I would say, we had critical to safety and critical to quality in GE. So we have less critical to safety, but probably more
Mhm.
critical to quality,
Yeah.
because if your machine is not performing, you have a call from the CEO which tells your machine is down, which might be less the case, a bit less the case in medical.
That's right. So you mentioned that you managed to convey this culture for the maybe first 100, 150, and now you're finding a bit more difficult. How do you how do you do to have this culture spread at all levels of the company, and how you as a CEO and Renaud as the CTO and both as co-founders, do you embody those values in the daily life? How do you manage to express those values to employees?
Yeah. So first of all, we have the training. So any employees that go through the company, I have them for training during their first month here, and I spend time with them explaining what I told you, what we do, what are the values and the way of doing of Exotech behind the scene. We have the same for the managers. So each manager goes also through a training, and then we spend time each month. We have what we call Exotec Life, and we spend several hours with the employee explaining what happened, where we are going, and also giving a lot of insight on what, yeah, where the company is going. And I tend to say also that you are supposed to reflect that in the everyday life. So with Renaud, we are very operational. Renaud is CTO, so the R&D people, for instance, are doing a meeting with Renault and see what is the level of what's expected every day. But I think, yes, being very operational and having in everyday life this mindset also helps the employee to see where we want to go.
All right, thank you. So, I mean, that's a challenge for every company to maintain a culture, and that's not easy every day. So, before we move on to know a little bit more about you, I have one question for you on this 5 years entrepreneurial adventure at Exotec. What are the main lessons that you've learned during this entrepreneurship period?
Um, One thing I was wondering was how should I be myself? What image shall I give? Or I will go and see new customer, people that don't know me. What will I reflect? What they think? What they will think of me? I might have more than 100 employees at some point. What will they think of me? And I have simplified everything. I'm just myself, which make my life much more easy. Sometimes it makes the employee have fun, but at least I know that I don't have to play a role. And yeah, that was a big that was a question I had in mind at first. Um, Also, I think you at some point you understand where you are good at, where you are not good at, and you accept yourself and you focus on what you are good at and try to find the people where on the stuff you don't like or you can do properly. And I think, yeah, you learn about yourself because in a company, in a startup, you are doing everything at first, so you access any kind of any position in the company. And yes, it's also, maybe I had the pretension of thinking I could do everything. No, I am. I'm also okay with that. There are some stuff I don't do well at all.
Okay, so I mean, I like this mindset very much. You just be authentic and be yourself and leverage your strengths and not trying to work on your weaknesses that much and just find the right people. So maybe the next question is, who is Romain? So maybe first, what are you passionate about in life?
Hopefully, I'm passionate about robots, so I tend to be a very happy man because my job is very well connected to my passion. In school, I was doing the French Robotics Cup, and I had a huge fun building robots that were taking balls and placing them in some goals, stuff like that. And so with Exotec, I'm kind of having a huge playground and a huge toy that I love. So I love to have my own project, but sometimes these are projects even for Exotech. I will take a specific topic that I want to work on that I should not work on, but I have fun at home like that. And then I spend time with my family, of course, my wife and kids, trying to save my personal time. But for now, it's going not too bad.
Okay, cool. And I recognize who you were already at GL Scare with your side project with the robotics on your own, and that's great. Uh, so you mentioned you are wondering how people could think about you, your customer, or your employees. If I go to Exotech tomorrow, how would the Exotech employee describe the Romain Moulin as the CEO? What would they say?
Some of them will probably say I'm a funny guy.
Okay.
I hope some of them will tell that I'm demanding and well, reflecting this almost passive fail mindset. Sometimes people tend to tell me that I can be very direct and I can hurt people. I'm not completely aware of it. So
Okay.
sometimes it looks like transparency goes with hurting without knowing it. Um, I hope they will tell you that I'm simple.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I thought about this question myself, and there were two things that came to my mind. One was fun because I think you're really a fun guy. I mean, you enjoy having fun and bringing fun to the workplace. And the second one was bold, meaning like you can take care of any project and have a lot of ambition in what you do and what you see for your companies or for yourself or for others, which is for me. I believe a great quality because it leverage other people and it help everybody to level up their game. All
Yeah,
right,
and
so
I can bounce on it. Sorry, I think American are bolder than we are, and that's
yeah,
really a lesson. Lesson
mm,
learned also for the startups. If you want to build something big, you need to think very big. Otherwise, you are thinking too small, and it's difficult to scale. So of course, sometimes it takes more money, but you'd better spend time finding the money so that you can be bold than trying to do very small. You should not burn the money like hell, but you need to build something that will be able to scale. And yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean
think.
that's the same lesson that we came out with the our previous experience at MedTech when we built the Rosa robot for neurosurgery and spine surgery. When we started again quantum surgical, we aimed much bigger and we aim to grow much faster than before. And because as you said, US companies, that's the way they do, and that's the way they raise money, and that's the way they come to the market very fast, and that's the way they become number one in the world in this sector. So we as a French startup inventors, entrepreneurs, engineers, and researchers, we should also aim big because we have all the bright minds that are required to grow these companies, and the funding can follow when you have the right idea and the right team. Okay, so I want to be mindful of your time because I can see that that's just a couple of minutes, and you are a very busy CEO. So I will just finish this episode with a bonus question from the guest. So if you have any question from you to me, let's ask it.
I have only one question, which is the most important. Lucien, are you happy when you wake up in the morning?
Yeah, I mean, yes, of course. It's we are at a very exciting phase of the company right now. I mean, on the family side, I got three kids that are young in age, pretty much like you. So twins that are 4, and the other one that's 6. So it's a busy morning because I take care of the kids to bring them to school. So for me, it's kind of busy but happy. And when I come to work, there are a lot of exciting projects right now. We are starting the clinical adoption of the product. So that's the basically you see, as you said before, you see what's the impact of your product on the medical space on patient, and that's what you've been working for 4 years. So it's there is a lot to do. It's not an easy road. It's I mean there are always difficulties to solve and customers to satisfy, but that's why we've done all that. It's to provide a product that will hopefully enhance people's life at some point, and it's very excited. And so I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to meet people like you or other people in the medical space, and that's a bright future for quantum surgical, and I hope for myself.
Good. Then I'm happy for you, Lucien. Bravo.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Romain Moulin, CEO of Exotec, was on the podcast today. And hang on a minute, we will just chat for a few seconds. And thanks all for listening to this very specific episode on warehouse robotics and Exotec.
Thank you.